Hi, I'm here with another popular question. So today's is, where should we go for dinner? Okay, this is the kind of question that at the end of the day, you've been negotiating hard, you've been working very closely with a group of people, and it gets to be late and it's time to get something to eat. Okay, so this question comes up. What do we do? Okay, so if you're the guest, generally the host will ask, where do you want to go? Unless they've made prior arrangements. I'm going on the assumption that they're asking, because if they made prior arrangements, it's unless you have food restrictions, you probably should go along with where you're going. So when they ask, what would you like to have? We have a couple of different things you can approach the conversation with. You can talk about the kinds of food that you like. Okay, you can talk about what kinds of meat do you like? Are you vegetarian? What kinds of broad classifications of food do you like? Do you like steaks? Do you like roasted things? So there's a couple of ways you can go about that. Talking about the broad categories, the kinds of food, gives the host a wide variety of things he can then offer back. If you are very specific and say what you want in very specific terms, he's probably going to have a harder time finding someplace that fits what you want. So keep that in mind. Think about your guest, think about your host, and talk to them and get to understand what's available. So the kinds of food can give the host a very good idea of what kind of place to go eat. The other is the nationality of food. Now, I know most countries are very large. Singapore is the exception. We're tiny. But we have three major cultures smashing into one tiny little island, and a large population that hates to cook. So our selection of food is rather impressive. Even people from cities such as London and LA come to Singapore and are amazed at the variety of foods that we have. But you can still pick by nationality. Okay, so if you say, for instance, Indian, well, that can encompass quite a few different things. So you might try a general country first. If it's a large country, or you know it has regions in it, you could be a little more specific. Southern Indian, Northern Indian, okay, Northern Chinese, Southern Chinese, Szechuan, okay. So by picking a region inside of a larger country, you give the host an idea of what kinds of foods you like. Smaller countries like Thailand, Japan, these countries tend to have a more homogeneous restaurant. They tend to have restaurants that are more specific to the general overall culture. So give yourself a range of kinds of things and look at it closely as to the size of the country. And then you could use a nationality of food for that. I will warn you, American food, on the surface, it seems like it's McDonald's, okay? But when you dig into it, there's a lot more. Most countries are like that. So if you are in a country and you decide to say, let's say we're in Thailand, and you say, let's go for Thai food, they're going to expect you to have a bit more defined, because everywhere is going to have Thai food of different types. So that's where going back to the kinds of food is probably a better bet. Seafood, beef, mostly chicken. Those are the kinds of things that in that environment would be a better choice. Okay? So that's a bit of how you have to kind of think about who's the audience, who's the host, what information do they need. Okay? Now, food restrictions. Okay? Remember, as a guest, you want to be a gracious guest, in addition to the host wants to be a gracious host. So food restrictions, obviously, if it's religious or dietary, you need to express them. But try to open up and and express them in a way that's more positive, and try to work around the things. My friends who are vegetarian will often say, I'm vegetarian, but most places have something that I can eat. And so that gives me the option of going someplace and thinking more of has some vegetarian, has some meat. If they just say, I'm vegetarian, I'm probably going to think purely vegetarian. So be aware of that if you ask for pure vegetarian, the choices may be more limited. Okay, obviously religious food restrictions are very important to people, and you need to make your host aware of those kinds of things ahead of time, because he doesn't want to take you to a very nice fancy restaurant and all you touch is the water. So be honest, be upfront, be clear about what you can and cannot eat. However, do it in a nice way. If you're not really sure how to say it in a nice way, you could go over to our YouTube channel. We have some YouTube videos there that talk about polite language. Indirect speech, passive voice are two ways that you can use to just talk about food restrictions in a way that will be less confrontational. Last, special requests. Now, these could be almost anything. Maybe you've heard, oh, I'm in Singapore, I gotta have chili crab, because that's what Singapore is famous for. Okay, that's a special request. Okay, particularly if a region is well known for something, they will be honored for you to say, that's something I would like to try. My favorite story with this one is my father. My father traveled to China many times, and over the years, he developed friendships with a lot of the people that he went to. And my dad loves Chinese food. When I was growing up, I ate Chinese food 3 or 4 times a week. He loved Peking duck, and my mom learned how to make Peking duck for him and would make that maybe every 6 months, because it is rather involved or difficult to do. Well, my mom suggested, well, why don't you tell these people that you love Peking duck? And he said, oh, well, I don't want to do that. That would put them in a place. So my mom suggested, why don't you just subtly suggest it at some point? Oh, you know, my wife makes really good Peking duck, you know, but I've always kind of wondered what it would be like in China. So he did this. He kind of subtly said it in a way that made it sound like he would want to try it, but not like he was greedy to try it. So that's a strategy you can try using. When he went, he had Peking duck 30 times, and every time was different. So he said it was really pretty amazing that those things happen. So I hope you liked this video. If you did, take a look at our LinkedIn page. See the link in the description. And I hope to see you in the next video.